Tonight, 5 Canadians flying out of a GTA airport crash in a fiery disaster in Tennessee.
That impact was catastrophic and did not leave any survivors.
What we've uncovered about the aviation catastrophe that killed 2 adults and 3 children. The dramatic fireball provides some clues. We're at the Brampton-Caledon Airport tonight with details.
Someone knows who this individual is.
Plus, new intel from police. Investigators hope will help identify a victim after human remains washed up last fall on Cherry Beach.
Super stoked that it's being brought over to the Canadian side, knock on wood.
And a high-stakes expansion attempt. Reaction to the story CBC Sports broke about a Canadian push to get a WNBA team in Toronto. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We're beginning tonight with a Canadian catastrophe along a Tennessee interstate. 5 Canadians are dead, 3 of them children, after a plane took off from Ontario yesterday evening and crashed along the highway, exploding on impact. We've learned a lot about the fatal crash and critical clues, including lots of eyewitness video, even the cockpit audio recording, and a warning some of that audio you're about to hear is difficult to digest, as you hear the pilot realizing he would not make the runway in Nashville. But there are still many unknowns with this tragedy as well, including who was on board and exactly which Ontario airport the plane took off from. Lane Harrison is at the Brampton-Caledon Airport tonight, just northwest of Toronto. And Lane, at this point, the most likely scenario is that the plane took off from that airport.
Right. All American authorities would say is that the plane took off in Ontario. Online flight tracking data shows it began its journey around Milton, which is just nearby here. The general manager of this airport and the Federal Aviation Registry say the plane was based out of this airport. The government has confirmed that 5 Canadians were killed in the crash, and an aviation expert tells us tonight that dramatic video may help determine what led to this tragedy.
Yes, I have the runway inside. Go runway 2, clear to land. I'm too far away, I won't make it.
Those were among the last words uttered by the pilot of a small plane before it crashed and burst into flames next to a highway in Nashville. The pilot had reported engine failure in the final minutes of the flight, which resulted in 5 Canadians, including 3 children, dead, according to American investigators.
When the crash did go down, it did, as witnesses describe, implode on impact. That impact was catastrophic and did not leave any survivors.
The plane was a single-engine Piper aircraft built in 1978, per its federal registration. According to data from the tracking website FlightAware, the aircraft took off from the Milton area, west of Toronto, first flying to Erie, Pennsylvania, then landing in Kentucky, finally approaching an airport in Nashville, but overflying the runway, making a U-turn before crashing to the ground.
We're still trying to determine why he decided to overfly the airport at 2,500 feet. I don't know that yet.
Aaron McCarter, an American aircraft accident investigator, told reporters Tuesday lots is unknown about the crash, like if the pilot was trying to land on the interstate.
It was dark. And the angle that he came in, it would have been very difficult for him to land on the interstate because he came in perpendicular to the interstate.
The plane was registered to fly out of the Brampton-Caledon Airport and is owned by a numbered company registered in Vaughan. In a statement, Global Affairs Canada says consular officials are in touch with local authorities. The federal government wouldn't share more information due to privacy concerns.
Oh, huge fire, huge fire.
Passerbys recorded the fireball, a clue that the plane may not have been low on fuel, according to one aviation expert.
Whether or not the pilot had just switched tanks because he was landing and accidentally selected an empty tank, this will be something that the NTSB here in the United States will look at.
The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board says the identities of the victims will come from local authorities in Nashville. Global Affairs Canada says they're in touch with those authorities and their staff are prepared to assist the families of those impacted. Meanwhile, American authorities say a preliminary report on the crash will come in the next few weeks, but a final comprehensive report won't be ready for 9 months to a year. Back here at the airport, some flight students that I spoke to earlier today told me they were rattled to hear the plane may have come from this airport. Chris?
Oh, such a tragedy indeed. Lane Harrison reporting for us tonight in Caledon. Thank you, Lane. Near Woodstock this morning, several children were injured when a school bus rolled over on a country road. Police say the bus was carrying approximately 40 children. One kid ended up pinned beneath the bus and was airlifted to hospital. 6 other patients were also taken to hospital. The extent of their injuries is unknown, but they are not considered life-threatening. Back here in Toronto, police and Go Transit are reminding people to be careful around railway tracks. The new warning comes after 2 teenagers died after they were struck by an Up Express train last night. Tyler Cheese has the story.
Toronto police responded to reports of someone struck by a train just after 10 last night. When they arrived, they found 2 victims, a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Police aren't releasing details about why the teens were on the tracks or how they accessed them, but they're reminding the public today about the dangers of open railways.
No matter when you're on tracks, it's a dangerous period of time, and we want people to stay away from them.
The victims' identities have also not been released, but police say their families have been notified.
These incidents are traumatic for both the families of the victims and the persons involved in the train.
Around 200 people were on board the train, which was on its way to Pearson Airport. Police say passengers can access counseling if they're experiencing distress from the incident.
We want them to be mindful of their own health, and if they're experiencing anything that they need assistance with, to reach out to Toronto Victim Services and make use of their counseling that's available to these people.
This is a tragic incident.
Metrolinx, which operates the Up Express, echoed the sentiments of police today.
Please, we implore people to stay away from live train tracks. This location is between stations, it's not at a station. Please do not cross open railway lines.
He also voiced concern for Up Express staff.
We have a counselling service for our staff, debriefing service as well. One of our priorities is to make sure that we manage the mental health of those involved.
Anyone with information that could help with the ongoing investigation is asked to contact police. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
There's a new push for your help tonight from Toronto Police. They've released a pile of new information about human remains that washed up on Cherry Beach last fall. As Talia Ricci reports, officers say they need help in identifying the body. And a warning, some of the details Talia is about to share from investigators are graphic.
Last fall, Toronto Police reported that body parts washed up on Cherry Beach. Today, investigators confirmed the man's body had been intentionally dismembered. And now, investigators need help finding out who he is and what happened to him.
Someone knows who this individual is. Someone knows what took place.
Police first received a call on October 9th after a resident reported they'd found human remains on the beach. It was later identified as someone's thigh. Officers responded and found a matching thigh meters away in the water. Weeks later, the Marine unit discovered a torso while on patrol in Lake Ontario's Outer Harbour.
That torso had been partially wrapped in black plastic bag and had on a light-colored, size small T-shirt with the brand of Cotton's Best.
Police say a forensic pathologist determined the body belonged to a man aged 21 to 28 years old with a light brown or tan complexion, an average to lean build, and black body hair. Police say he would have been about 5'6", plus or minus about 3.5 inches. The torso was found wearing a simple chain necklace, which investigators released this photo of. Police say there is no way to know if the victim was a Toronto resident.
Because we only have a torso and we only have thighs that do not have any distinguishing marks or scars or tattoos, it's made it quite difficult for us to identify this individual.
No other remains have been discovered and the cause of death is still unknown. The Homicide and Missing Persons Unit is currently working with 51 Division.
Based on the information that we have, it is believed that the individual died between 24 and 48 hours before the first human remains were found on that date on October 9th, 2023.
We have members of our population who are vulnerable, and they may not have a large network of people who are looking out for them. So if there's someone that you are unaccounted for or someone that you know through someone else, please do not hesitate to reach out to us.
Police say since it's not known how the victim died, it's not yet being treated as a homicide investigation, but is being dealt with the highest level of suspicion. Investigators are going through missing persons reports and human remains databases every day, including cases across the border. Police say they will be following up on every tip. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
And up in York, police are investigating after shots were fired into a Markham home last Wednesday. Police arrived on scene just after 3 p.m. near Castlemore Avenue and Solis Road. Investigators say the house was shot at multiple times, and there was one person inside, but officers say they were not injured. Police say they're searching for a male suspect who is tall and skinny, last seen wearing a black jacket and joggers and a white shirt and a black face mask. 5 degrees and cloudy tonight as we look live at Windsor. Colette, a very warm day today, at least in Toronto, but not a record, hey?
Yeah, Chris, and that's really why I'm going to start off here with a look at the almanac for Toronto, just to kind of give you an idea. All right, we were 15-ish degrees today, so not close, but maybe a little bit flirting with the record. Certainly had the record yesterday, and showing you where the lows are, nowhere near that. That one's been holding for a long time. But what I also want to point out here are the normal highs and lows, because we're going to see things cooling down, but still, we're going to be above seasonal. And just for giggles, record snow on the ground, 2005, 26 centimeters. So nowhere near dealing with that either. So there's your daytime high, 15, 16 back towards Windsor. Still dealing with some of the rain along that cold front as our winds have changed direction. Now behind that, drizzle and cloud cover are still going to hang in, especially for the early part of the day on Wednesday. It'll probably be late day before we really get into some decent clearing. So it's a nice setup for Thursday. Not to get ahead of myself, your low tonight, 5 degrees, 8 degrees for that daytime high tomorrow. We'll look at Thursday and the weekend. That's all coming up, Chris.
All right, sounds good. We'll talk to you again a little later on in the show. The provincial government has reached a tentative contract deal with Catholic teachers.
Last night and early into the morning, we reached a tentative central agreement with OECTA, the Catholic Teachers Union. If ratified, it will ensure that there will be no province-wide job action or strikes by teachers in all English language French publicly funded schools for the next 3 years.
The Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association is last of the major teachers unions to reach a deal, and the agreement is similar to those with the other major teachers unions, which sent outstanding matters such as salary to binding arbitration. The deal still needs to be ratified by members. There are questions tonight about the PC candidate in an upcoming Milton by-election. Z. Hamid tried to seek the federal seat as a Liberal and appears to have donated to the Liberal Party as recently as 2 years ago. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has that story.
Z. Hamid is the new PC candidate in the upcoming by-election in Milton. He used to be a Milton City Councillor, even ran for mayor there, and he attempted to win the federal Liberal nomination for the area 10 years ago. Someone with the same name has made 6 different donations to Liberals over the years, most recently in 2022, adding up to more than $3,500, almost all of that since 2020. Even contributing to the leadership bid of former leader Stephen Del Duca, donating $950.
Did you appoint a Liberal to run in Milton?
Today, reporters asked the government House Leader about that.
I'm looking very forward to the by-election. I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Hamid. He's got a lot of things. We have a lot of things in common. He wants to get more homes built faster, so I'm very excited about the by-election that's coming.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
The NDP response?
Liberal Tory, same old story, right? Not a big surprise here for any of us in the NDP.
Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie, who currently does not have a seat, previously said she's seriously considering running in Milton. It's a seat vacated by Parm Gill of the PCs, who left to run for the federal Conservatives. So how did Hamid end up running for the Tories?
Well, you'd have to ask him that, and I know that we're going to have a great candidate in Milton.
Hamid responded in a message saying, I want to run for a leader who will get people out of traffic by building Highway 413 and keep costs down for families by opposing the carbon tax. Bonnie Crombie isn't that leader. Doug Ford is.
Crombie still hasn't decided whether she'll run in this by-election, and so far none of the other parties have chosen a candidate. The Premier doesn't actually have to call this by-election for more than 5 months, but now that the PCs have a candidate, opposition parties believe it'll happen soon. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's Union of Public Employees says government policy is the reason for an increase in the gender pay gap in Ontario.
More than 90% of the workers in the broader public sector work in education, healthcare, and social assistance. These are all female-dominated industries, employing 1.2 million women and 1/3 of all women workers in Ontario. In other words, the attack on the public sector workers is an attack on women.
A report from CUPE blames the Ford government for wage cuts in the broader public sector, where women make up the majority of the workforce. In contrast, workers elsewhere in the economy outperformed inflation by 7% during the 2017-2023 period. The recognition of the gender wage gap comes as International Women's Day approaches this Friday. Returning now with an idea that some are calling a straight-up slam dunk. Yesterday, CBC Sports was first to report that MLSE minority owner Larry Tannenbaum is pursuing a bid for a WNBA franchise for Toronto. And while nothing has been confirmed yet, the buzz has many people excited about a professional women's basketball team here in the city. Dale Manuktuk has the story.
I was sitting in press row, and I actually was brought to tears.
Powers, pull-up jumper, that's too clean.
It was just a taste. One night only in Toronto last May when the WNBA sold out the Scotiabank Arena for an exhibition game. Sports host Karina Mustafa took it all in.
It was pretty surreal to see a sold-out Scotiabank Arena and just feel the love from all the basketball fans in Canada and in Toronto in that one room. It was just a monumental thing.
And those feelings have come flooding back. CBC Sports broke the story that MLSE minority owner Larry Tannenbaum is trying to bring a WNBA team to Toronto through his holding company, the Kilmer Group.
When I saw this, super stoked that it's being brought over to the Canadian side, knock on wood. Hopefully everything works out.
This content creator for Summerhill, a media company owned by NBA superstar LeBron James, says it makes sense right now. She also went to the WNBA game in Toronto, taking her mother along for the ride.
There's been a massive shift in the last 5 years. There was a report that just came out from Wasserman, and it's like 15% of sports coverage is now equated to women's sports. Previously, it was 4%.
When asked about bringing a team to Toronto, the Kilmer Group said Tannenbaum is always looking for opportunities to champion professional sports and deliver unrivaled fan experiences in the city he loves. Kilmer will not respond to speculation or provide further comment at this time. While it would not confirm, the group did announce today the appointment of Ivan Gazidis as president of Kilmer Sports Ventures, a new division focusing on investment opportunities.
Knowing the trend of women's sports with the PWHL, with the new volleyball league in the States, eventually at some point, the country is going to want a team.
The idea of a team in Toronto didn't come out of nowhere. During the festivities of last year's exhibition game, the WNBA commissioner said this about cities it might expand into.
We're at about 10 now that we're talking with and we're doing due diligence on and we're doing a lot of analysis on. So we're getting closer.
She said last May that Toronto was high on the list. If it happens, it would be the league's 14th franchise. Dale Manuktuk, CBC News, Toronto.
A quick note up at Pearson, where officials say they are ready for March break travelers.
It's going to be a really busy week, but a fun week here at Toronto Pearson. There's thousands of families who are heading off for March break. We have 140,000 passengers per day that are passing through the airport at the peak points of March break, which is up about 10% from last year.
That's nearly 1,000 flights taking off and landing every day during busy peaks. Ahead of the rush, Pearson is sharing some advice to help prepare people before heading to the airport. It includes reserving a spot in the security line in advance, digitally submitting documents for U.S. Customs inspection, and following the live dashboards that show wait times by terminal, flight type, and airline. And a live look at Toronto somewhere in there as we head to break. Very foggy conditions and sitting at 8 degrees right now. We'll check back with Colette for a look at your extended forecast when we come back. Stay with us. All right, so a bit of a cool down coming tomorrow. Not the dramatic tumble that we saw with the temperature last week, Colette. This change is feeling a bit more gradual.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Sometimes we do these things in baby steps and we cool down a little bit and then maybe a little bit more. But in this case, it's just the first part, cooling down a little bit. You know, really, we don't get closer closer to seasonal temps for our overnight lows anyway until we get into the latter part of the weekend. So we are resetting, though. It's certainly cooler than what it has been, all right, for the first few days of the week. We still will have some drizzle and really that cloud cover pretty persistent and stubborn with us into Wednesday. And then we'll get into some sunshine Thursday. So that's going to be a nice day. A little breezy in the morning, but then looking pretty good. But the next system comes in late Friday. I was showing you a mix there. It's not Friday or Saturday we get into that, but as that cooler air comes in then for those overnights, Saturday night into Sunday, we could have a few wet flurries coming our way. I know, surprising for this kind of a winter that we've been seeing. So taking you through here these evening and overnight hours, we're losing all that rain along the front, but still behind this, there's more surging up kind of just south of the lower Great Lakes. And with that, we'll still have some of the clouds to contend with, but showers, especially in the Niagara region, and then a little bit of drizzle kind of pushing back from Toronto, stretching all the way back towards Windsor. We have that until we really can carve this out and lose any moisture associated with that cloud cover, and then we will be getting into some sun. The setup looking good there for Thursday then. So those winds really changing direction. We go from that nice southerly flow that was pushing our temperatures up with the records yesterday, and then it's more of a northerly to becoming northeasterly flow that we get into. Tonight's temperatures, we level off here a little bit, lows of 3 to 4 degrees through southwestern Ontario, carrying over towards the Golden Horseshoe. Similar 4 to 5 for those overnight temperatures with that northerly wind 15 to 25 kilometers an hour. And then the high tomorrow just 8 degrees, and we're kind of settling there for high teens for highs as we head to the weekend. And then we get into the negatives, and yeah, we're pushing those clocks forward too. Saturday night before bed, we spring ahead, Chris.
All right, good reminder. Thank you, Colette.
This exhibition is my artwork that I've made entirely out of Lego bricks.
A new exhibit in London features recreations of some of the world's most famous artworks built with 1.5 million Lego bricks. American artist Nathan Sawaya builds his own versions of classical sculptures and well-known paintings and has been doing it for more than 20 years. And that's it for us tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 11, and we'll see you then.